I had experience whilst working in the community sector, receiving a referral from a clinical service who were having difficulty with engaging one of the clients of their service. He had disconnected from their service. He had been placed on a community treatment order, and as a result, at one point he was quite unwell and had been removed from his home by the police. This only further disconnected him from the clinical service, and it was his belief that he was over-medicated, and as such he didn't really wish to engage in clinical services. And then this is when I came in to offer him peer support. And my role was very much at first about building connection and listening to this participant and showing a little bit of my vulnerability. I guess he came from a place of being a strong male stereotype and wasn't too keen on sharing his vulnerability at first. But however, once I had done so, I think he felt more comfortable in the relationship, and we were able to explore different things. And one of the things that was explored was to explore his worldview around how emergency services, mainly police, were not to be trusted. This fella had played football in his early years and in his early adult years as well, and he'd missed the sense of being part of a team and a part of a community. He'd shared that with me in previous appointments, and I saw this as an opportunity to challenge this fella's worldview around his experience with the police and how he feel that they're to cause harm rather than to help. So I invited this fellow along to the initiative at the time, which was the police were driving the initiative called the Southern Peninsula Swans Rec Link football team. And I did word him up, of course, that the police were lead agents of this initiative. And of course, this was met with some concern for this fella, and he wasn't sure as to whether he'd engage. But I got him along to training, and he loved the experience, and further to that, he played a number of games, and it even was an award at a best on ground from one of the senior sergeants who was coaching, and he had playing mentors as well that were police officers. So this experience for this fella did help to shift his worldview around police are there to cause harm, and rather he experienced police doing good work and being a part of the community and supporting people in the community. So this was an experience for me whereby I was able to try out peer sport over a period of time and use the principles of connection, worldview and mutuality to move towards a new way of understanding the world for this particular fella, and it proved to be quite effective. There's a client I refer to for the purpose of this. I'll call him David. David was living with his mother. He was 30 years of age and hadn't left the home in over 6 months. He was having his GP come out to visit him in the home and simply couldn't see himself moving beyond where he was, although he knew he wanted so much more in his life. He just felt so stuck and tied to the problem of not being able to leave the house, and the anxiety that was associated with all that was inconceivable for him to see how he could move beyond his way of being in the world. Now, over time, I developed some connection with David, and through the relationship shared some of my vulnerability along the way in my mental health journey, and some of the things that I found really, really challenging now I take for granted daily, that they're no longer an issue for me. This, I think, has assisted David in accepting that we can all be vulnerable at different times, and there are things that we can do to move beyond our worldview, and that feeling of being stuck and tied to a problem absorbs our energy and doesn't enable us to move forward. So over time, we were able to push David's comfort zones to a point where initially he could clear the mailbox, and then he did geocaching, which got him out of his house. And the first milestone was a local reserve, only a couple of 100 meters out of his front door. He had a geocache, and we went and visited that. And then from there, we kept on pushing comfort zones where we were going to geocaches in sort of a 5k radius, and we're pushing it out to eventually David was able to visit his GP, which was some 20 kilometres away, and this was a huge milestone for him and a big stepping stone towards getting his independence back. And eventually he actually got his own rental property and lived of his own esteem independently on his own with his cat. So this was a huge milestone for David, and something that he never really felt was achievable. So through that subtlety of challenging worldviews, we're able to, over time in peer support, move people towards a life which is more rich and meaningful to them.